Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Homeowners insurance increasing or deductible too high? Call, click, or come in. Save it, Dave. Dave Miette Insurance Agency.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher, live from our Pontchartrain Production Studios on another Chamber of Commerce day here in New Orleans. And again, it's going to be like this all weekend long. Great weekend for us. French Quarter Fest back after 2 years of hiatus because of the pandemic. The Zurich Classic of New Orleans is rolling. First day today, and of course that'll be a big weekend. And of course the Pelicans home for Game 3 and Game 4 in the Smoothie King Center, again 1-1 tie after again splitting in Phoenix. So big weekend here in New Orleans for again tourism, also sports, and of course we're going to break it all down for you, talking about all the local teams, Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans, all on tap for us today. And of course to break it down for us, one of the best we have in the entire state. And we've talked about him, and again back by popular demand. So many people have reached out, emailed, when are you getting Jordy Culotta back on the program? Jordy Culotta, the Jordy Culotta Show is back. And Jordy, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us as always, especially making the trip down from Baton Rouge.
Absolutely.
Certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. Anytime you extend the invitation, we always love to get down here. We love to have a presence down here, and obviously love what you got going on. So anytime we can come down here, especially on a day like today, it's beautiful, man, and it's a great weekend for the city. We appreciate the invite, for sure. Well,
we appreciate you being here. I want to start off by again letting everybody know about your show. I've talked about it on my radio show. We've talked about it here. Again, trailblazing the digital platform when it comes to sports entertainment. Tell us all about, again, what you got going.
Thank you. We've gone to the digital medium where we are on YouTube, and we're on social media. We're on Facebook. We've got a website, jordyculotta.show.com, that we are putting content out on every day. We are content creators and doing that from a digital method every day, and we're doing it around digital marketing strategies that we're offering to our clients. So it's going really well. We really love the transition, and it's definitely the kind of the shift in our industry and our medium is definitely coming over to this side. So it's good to be, as far as the state of Louisiana goes, some of the first. There's some people over here for sure, but from where we are, it's been pretty cool to kind of get out here and explore new space.
For those that don't understand, there have been other national hosts that have done this. Maybe not to the extent you have, maybe a little bit further along, but I mean, we've seen Pat McAfee, we've seen some others do what you're doing, and again, everything is ever changing in terms of, again, how people are getting their information now, especially young people today.
Sure.
And you're on the forefront of it.
Well, look, I think everybody is their own media entity now, right? I mean, we've seen this with athletes. Tom Brady kind of retracted his retirement story from Adam Schefter because he wanted to control the narrative. Here, even locally, I mean, you saw the buzz that Zion Williamson got when he put out a video on his Instagram. I mean, it was international news. I mean, it was, and that didn't come from ESPN, that didn't come from Bleacher Report, it came from Zion's Instagram account. So, I mean, everybody has the ability to build up numbers, build up what we call kind of in the industry a tribe. So when you have a message, when you have something that you want to talk to or talk about, you've got a built-in audience, then you could take to, you know, advertisers and sponsors and, you know, tell them if you're looking for a certain demographic, we're touching them every day. So it's fascinating. It's steadily evolving. It's like holding water, right? Like, I mean, like you feel like at some point you got a grasp of it, but you really don't, because it's always changing. So it's been interesting. It's been fun to learn. And there's so much more out there. I mean, you know, you bringing me down today gave me an opportunity to come down here and talk to some people in New Orleans who are doing it right, you know. So it's something that everybody's got an opinion on. It's something that everybody's got a vantage point on, and there's a lot of entry points for it: sales, marketing, content, editing. I mean, there's just all types of stuff to do in the world.
Well, and look, they've been saying for years radio is not going to be around, etc. Of course, radio has withstood that, but there is no doubt there is another avenue to be able to get your information these days, and of course you're taking full advantage of it. By the way, he's very modest. When Zion put out the video on the dunk, Zion's people sent it to the Jordy Culotta's show to be able to again put out there. When Zion's stepdad wanted to talk about Zion, he went on the Jordy Culotta's show to be able to talk about Zion. So being very modest there, but they've recognized your platform and again what you're doing on the digital platform, which is reaching a lot of people they want to reach.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, that's where in our world, and you're right. Look, the traditional advertiser, the traditional media it's not going to die. It'll always be there. But there are options. There are different avenues, and in this one, it's much more easy to find out where the demographic is. You can find out exactly who's watching, when they're watching, how many are watching.
That helps so much in sales.
You know, absolutely. I mean, you know, sales in traditional media is almost scientific, where you almost have to talk about it and describe it and talk about how you get it. And this, look, it's here. Here are the clicks. Here's the breakdown of the demographic, and that's very eye-opening to the business owner, right? Somebody who can see it and say, okay, this is where we need to be because I want to talk to this demographic of the population. So, you know, a lot of our intel is going into building that knowledge, you know, on how you analytically break down the content that we're putting out, and then in return show it to somebody who can easily look at it, digest it, and say, okay, I understand, this is where we want to be.
Right. It takes a lot of guts to be a trailblazer. It does. And Jordy's on the forefront of this. And a lot of people in my business, and myself included, taking a hard look at that, because again, that is another medium for us to be able to, again, get our message out. And you've done a fantastic job with it. Again, really honestly, you want to talk about among, again, the leaders in the digital world when it comes to sports. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, man.
Let's start with the Pelicans, because I want to get there. But I'd like to talk a bit about, before we get into, again, how great things are. Look, they split in Phoenix. We're going to get into that. We're going to break down again the fact that now it was Windhorst put out today that Booker will not be available for the series. He's out 1 to 2 weeks. I'm sorry, 2 to 3 weeks with, again, the hamstring strain. We know all about that because of Brandon Ingram missing the games that he's missed with a hamstring strain, but that really helps. But I do want to talk about the Zion situation, because I'm asked every day about it.
Yeah, sure.
Why is he not playing? And look, we've heard he's doing 5-on-5, but it's not with the team in team drills. It's more with the coaches and maybe some bench players. You have a relationship with Zion's family, with Zion's stepfather. Again, as mentioned, when the video went out about the dunk, they sent it to you. When they had something to say, they went on your show. What do you get? What's the feeling you get from their camp in terms of, is he ready to go? I hear he's ready, but yet, again, he hasn't been cleared. He's ready, but yet, again, he's too big. He weighs too much. The weight's not there. He's not in shape. He gets very, very winded easy. What are you hearing from the other side?
I believe, well, what I, from Zion's side and from that side of the discussion, they're ready to play.
Right.
They want to play, and they have, from their vantage point, have been ready to play. They've shown that, whether it be through social media uploads or even workouts at the facility. There is 5-on-5 that's taking place, and it's not against NBA competition. And I understand the argument, because there is some discussion from the Pelican side that, look, there is a little bit of weariness of just throwing him into an NBA game for his first action, right?
Especially a playoff game.
Absolutely, where the intensity is very much up, and you're talking about the best athletes at the world giving you everything they got.
Right.
So I think that there is a bit of understanding, but there also, I think, is a sense of frustration from Zion's side, and let's not overthink it. Right? Like, I mean, he's a world-class athlete. He's very young. He's ready to go. Basketball is not, you huddle up every 20 seconds and put a play together. I mean, it's very free-flowing and getting out there and kind of finding your way. So I think, it's a little bit of a frustration of you're overthinking this to a degree.
Right.
Like just get him out there and see where he is. He's healthy enough to a standpoint where he can go play 8, 12, extend that maybe 15, 18 minutes down the line. But I don't think that there's anything that Zion's camp's asking. Look, they don't want to be a starter. They don't want to be in the fourth quarter at the end of the game. They just want an opportunity to start to get their feet back underneath them. And from the developmental side, you and I have talked about this on your radio show before. Every sense of competitive team has to go through their fight, their growth, right? I mean, like going back to The Last Dance, Jordan talked about how you had to go through the Detroit Pistons. It took him a couple of years to cross over that mountain, right? I mean, the experience that guys like Jackson Hayes and Larry Nance and Murphy and Valanciunas and Alvarado and these young guys are getting, Herb Jones are getting through this playoff run. You can never recreate that. No. You can never get that back. And for Zion to be at this part of his career, still under his rookie contract, and missing out on these experiences and opportunities, to me, is more damning, really, than not having him in tomorrow night. I think that he could benefit so much just by being out there and getting the speed of the game and understand, look, man, come this part of the year, the intensity ratchets up a couple of notches, and you really got to be out there to experience that. So, there's a lot of layers.
I agree with you.
To what's, it's not just put him out there, sell some tickets, and make everybody excited, right? I mean, that part's gone and passed. It's now a part of, man, you gotta develop him. You gotta get his basketball experience, lined up.
Well, that was the big thing about this particular series. Again, look, you pretty much been in a playoff run for the last 10 to 15 games of the season, because you've been trying to get to the point where you get to the play-in tournament. You got in the play-in tournament, that was as close to as you could get to, again, the playoffs. We saw it ramp up in Phoenix in game one in terms of the physicality, speed of the game, how the officials are going to call it. That's something you have to be there to be involved in to understand. And we saw the Pelicans come out much more prepared in game two than they were in game one. And to me, again, this was always about, look, they're not going to the NBA championship this year. This was about experiencing the playoffs, understanding what it takes to get to the playoffs, and then what happens when you get in it. So they get next year, you're ready. The following year, you're moving up, and incrementally, again, you're growing as a franchise. And within that group in the locker room, it makes no sense to me, if he has been cleared by doctors and he is healed, not to get him on the floor 12, 18 minutes a game. I'm a little different from you. If you need him in the closing five, you put him in the closing five. But again, if you have the rhythm with your starting lineup, I understand that. There is a rhythm now with, again, the second team that comes in. But let me tell you something. The other night, when things bogged down, when they were double teaming both B.I. and C.J., and I put this on social media, sure would be nice to have a guy that, again, had 27 points and 7 rebounds last year, and a guy that has to be accounted for on inside the paint. So I think it helps both ways. Look, tickets are sold out now, okay? And for the rest of the playoffs, if they get into the second round, if they're able to come back here for more games, they're going to sell out. It's about, as you mentioned, the experience, but also, again, having another option, a guy that was an all-star on the floor. And I don't understand the hesitation from the organization on this.
I don't get it at all. Could you? I mean, it was such a great game the other night to watch.
Absolutely.
I mean, Ingram, that's the best game he's ever played in his life. It's the biggest game he's ever played in. Tomorrow night will be the biggest game of his life. But, I mean, to see him respond on this stage like he has, it has to get you thinking. When he's playing like that and the floor is spread, and you can't, I mean, if Zion's out there, there's no way you could double him.
There's no double.
Right? But, I mean, he was playing so well out of the double where he was finding guys. And, look, credit Alvarado and Nance for knocking those shots down. But, I mean, it's just the curiosity that takes over you that's saying, like, if he was out there and how big of a problem. They're a problem right now. I mean, the Pelicans are a problem.
They are.
They're an issue. I mean, like, that fourth quarter the other night, the second half in game one, when they just kind of got out and were running, there's not a lot of teams in the NBA playoffs that can match it. There are some, Golden State, Milwaukee, but I mean, outside of, you could see Phoenix, who's the 1 seed.
Right.
There was no timeouts. There was no substitutions that was going to stop Jackson Hayes in the open floor. There was just, you didn't have the personnel to stop it. There was nothing you could do about it. So, yeah, I mean, it's a frustrating time.
It's another tool in your tool chest, and if at this point, if he's not going to injure himself any further, if it's just about being in game shape, well, you can't get in game shape until you get into a game or until you're practicing. Again, and I think that, yes, it would fire up the fan base. There's no doubt about it. To see him again dressed out, coming out maybe at some point in the end of the first quarter, the second quarter. That vibe, that's going to gin up the home crowd. There's no doubt about it. But to me, it's another option. It's another option because you're going to get into this. You're going to get into the minutia of this series as it continues, and there's constant adjustments every single game within the game as well. He gives you one more option if things bog down.
No, I agree.
It's something they don't have right now.
No, I agree.
Which is a guy that can score again has unlimited scoring ability around the basket.
Well, sure. I mean, his closing radius and his ability to score within 7-8 feet is Shaq-like.
Right.
But I mean, like you said, but what would it do to Phoenix? I mean, think about it. Phoenix has to come out. They're on the ropes right now.
They are. There's no doubt.
And then you drop this guy back into the mix, and you've got to now start preparing and game planning for what if he's out there for the closing five. It's a hell of a scenario, and I mean, I hope it happens. I don't believe that it will.
Well, again, they've said he's out for the series, so we'll see how it plays out. The chemistry is look. I will say this: Brandon Ingram last year, looked like he had to, and he acquiesces a lot. Had to figure out how to play with Zion.
Yeah.
I think CJ and Brandon Ingram have figured out very, very quickly how to play with each other. They're both perimeter players. Yeah. Okay, both again like to go to the hole. When Zion's in the middle, it's being stopped up. They'd have to figure out how to floor spacing. But if he's ready to go, how do you keep a guy like that on the bench? And that's the thing that is mind-blowing. And nobody's saying anything right now because it's 1-1. And nobody really thought they had a chance to win this series. Hey, they got a legitimate chance to win this series now. So maybe, again, if you're David Griffin, you're Trajan Langdon, if you're, again, the training staff as well as, again, the coaching staff, maybe you have to take a second look at this and say, you know what? This is a guy that, as we get into maybe a second round, if we can make it that far, this is a guy that has to be dealt with, and something that you're throwing something at a team that they haven't had to deal with all season long, which is with Zion, CJ, BI on the floor at the same time.
No, it is. It's a hell of a scenario to think about when you think about those three guys and what they could be out there. It's a hell of a task for a coaching staff on the opposite sideline to try and stop.
And it makes them much deeper as well. Now, look, some of these guys, again, fringe guys, may not play with the second team, but look, you earn your minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we're not talking about coming in and taking over. We're talking about slowly getting him into the mix here. one thing that we've seen now is again, this team grow right before our very eyes. You can see the maturation just right before our very eyes. From, again, beating the Spurs at home to going out and again, taking care of the Clippers, getting pretty much blindsided in the first half against Phoenix, and then really kind of figuring it out on the fly in the second half of Game 1, and then of course, and I mentioned this on the radio show the other day, I don't know if they would beat Phoenix in game 2. But one thing I did know was there was going to be no quit. There would be the adjustments. They would play defense, and they would give Phoenix everything they had, and they did. Now look, Booker had 31 points in the first half. Everybody can downplay that all they want. He did not score in the second half. They made some adjustments on him. Full 45 left in the third. He goes out with a hamstring. He's gone for the game. They will make adjustments now, and a lot of those adjustments is going to fall on the shoulders of Chris Paul. And Chris Paul, if you know anything about Chris Paul in that arena, again, he believes that's the arena that he built, that's his home, and he will be, again, a guy that's going to have to be reckoned with. The question is, can he do it at his age over an extended series?
Yeah, it was interesting to see him go for 19 in the first game in the fourth quarter and realize, that's when you really left as a Pelicans fan thinking, look, this is a series, because can Chris Paul go nuclear every night and try and win this game single-handedly for the Suns? I don't think he can. I think he's a great point guard, but for whatever reason, whatever team he's on seems to be cursed to win an NBA title. Now with the news on Booker being out for at least this series, maybe into another series if they're able to advance, is just bad news for Paul. But I do believe that the Phoenix Suns team is a very viable squad without Booker. They've had success with him out
They have
of
an
the
8-3
lineup.
record without him.
That's
this
what I'm
year.
saying. They have a winning record without him. They have played without him. But from my standpoint, the most impressive person that that I have seen in this series has been Willie Green. I think Willie Green's growth from just not even game 1 to game 2, but the way that he's able to control the game from the sideline. I even thought Jackson Hayes the other night, the adjustment that he made on offense by taking him out of the corner, putting him in the spot where they're throwing the lob to him was just an issue. It also opened him up on the offensive glass, but he was able to manage his minutes. I mean, he knew when Hayes was a little gassed. He knew when it was time to kind of change things up. I think he's got a great feel for his team. I think he does a tremendous job of, you mentioned the changes, the ability to go back, watch film, make the adjustments. I mean, he has
and the
done
adjustments
that
on the fly.
in game.
That's the
in game, and then in between games 1 and 2. I'm telling you, I thought that Willie Green was the most impressive player person with the Pelicans by far, because not only that, it gives you this refreshing feeling. It's almost like Sean Payton, where you're like, man, they're going to be prepared for everything. Like there's not going to be a scenario that the Pelicans get into where it's not like you feel like they got the guy to figure it out. So he's young, he can vibe with him, he can communicate with him. I just feel like the Pelicans, that's why, again, to go back to it, it's just, this is a perfect fit for Zion. It would be different if it was a year and a half ago and you were wondering what the hell's going on. But now with the way it is, it's just, it feels like they're very easy to pull for.
No, they are, and I love what you had to say about Willie Green, because it's so true. You're talking about a rookie head coach, not that far removed from, again, his playing days, and it does feel very Payton-esque. It does. Again, first of all, his ability to motivate. Payton is a master motivator. We saw that motivation, that speech on the sidelines against the Clippers, willing his team to win. But then again, and I mentioned this on the radio show yesterday. Mike D'Antoni is a consultant. He's not on the bench. He's a consultant. They're Zooming, they're talking, etc. When you look at that staff, that's a bunch of no-name coaches. Not a lot of people know who these assistant coaches are, but collectively, they've done an incredible job of, again, being able to adjust from game to game, realizing, again, what they need to do in terms of their rotations. But then, look, something that is very difficult for a lot of coaches, I don't care where you are, what level, to do in-game adjustments on the fly. You see it. You've seen it with Peyton in football coming out in the second half, the adjustments they make, and in the case of Willie Green coming out the second half, but also in the game adjustments that we've seen, getting the most out of his players. So, yeah, I agree with you. the culture change, everything we've seen is sustainable because of what Green has built in such a short period of time.
Agreed. I mean, he is another great example and another definition that you can look at where, look, does anybody believe that leadership doesn't matter? Look what happens when you get good leadership, how people can respond. I mean, the Pelicans felt like a sinking franchise a year ago. You insert a guy with the enthusiasm, the vision, and the ability to communicate like Willie Green, and now you've got a winner on your hand that looks very attractive to league-wide free agents and executives, I'd imagine, because of just what looks like the next 5 years could be for New Orleans, and a lot of that is because of what Willie Green feels like and what his teams and how they play. That's not a fluke, right? Like, you can't fake going out against the 1 seed, making adjustments and putting them on the ropes. I mean, in the second half of game 1, if you would have just tuned in and didn't have any idea what you were watching, you'd have said, who's the 1, who's the 8? Because the team in the white uniform looks like the 1 seed and the team in the black uniform looks like the 8 seed, but it was actually flipped because Willie Green made adjustments that Phoenix just couldn't keep up with. They looked like an 8 seed going up against a 1 seed. But same thing in game 2. You know what I mean? They had no answer for some of the adjustments that Willie Green had made. So it just, future's very bright.
It is. And again, then you look at the development of players as well. I mean, look, that rookie class has been incredible with again, Herb Jones and Trey Murphy and Alvarado coming in, all guys. I mean, playing those guys in the final few minutes of games, closing out games.
Knocking down shots.
You don't see that. Okay? And look, it's taken Murphy a little while to get himself acclimated, but he's done it. We've seen, again, the Alvarado come in and be a spark plug for this team. Herb Jones, again, he's been a defensive stalwart, but we've seen him get better on the offensive end as well. And I don't know where they'd be without those 3 guys. Valanciunas is a double-double machine every single night. But the almost relaxed atmosphere on the floor to be able to see a guy like C.J. McCollum come in after the All-Star break, and you knew there was going to be a period where there had to be some growth between Brandon Ingram and C.J., but both guys now seem to be acclimated of how they want to play, getting guys the ball where they need it to be successful. You know, all these things, they're taking that from the practice court to the game, and they're executing this.
They complement one another very well, Brandon Ingram and C.J. McCollum. I think game 1 was a great example of that, where B.I. started slow and C.J. really picked up the slack, and then in second half, Ingram got going. C.J. McCollum kind of played facilitator. You can tell they really complement one another's game very well. McCollum's been just an incredible fresh of breath air. I mean, just, a breath of fresh air. He really has been. I mean, in the sense of not only what he's applied on the floor, but his locker room. And, again, we were talking about David Griffin before we went on the air today, and some of the strings that he's pulled, whether it was the draft picks. I don't think that there's anything more impressive than McCollum. I mean, a lot of people league-wide were saying, why would you take that contract on? Why would you take up McCollum and put him in another small market and bury him down there in New Orleans, when really he has been the wick that has lit this explosion of just kind of making New Orleans attractive and making them feel like a team that is very viable, very competitive. And, I think for as much as we banged on Griffin, look, we sat over in Baton Rouge for 3 years and was wondering what the hell is going on down there with David Griffin. How does he get the keys to this Ferrari? And now it seems like he's kind of got it figured out and driving it between the lines.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. He went from dead vice president of basketball operations walking, because I've talked about it in this show, radio show, we've discussed it. This is a guy that lost, again, the trust of the fan base, the media. I could say, again, I don't know if he lost it within that building, but he went from a guy that was on his way out by the end of the year to a guy that is in the running for NBA Executive of the Year. When you look at what he has been able to do, I've talked about utilizing wasting those draft picks on trying to be able to get out of bad deals. He traded 1 pick 3 times this year, to be able to, again, fill out this roster. And ultimately, again, they're in a position where they're going to be in the lottery. And a lot of those second-round picks that they've acquired and kind of hoarded, those are now going to teams instead of the first-round picks that was originally supposed to go. So, again, whether it's him, whether it's Transient Langdon, a combination of him, Langdon, and Cash together, they've done a great job in again, with a ship that was pretty much sinking, turning it around. And look, Zion injury, that hurt a lot. but making that deal at the trading deadline has totally turned around this franchise.
Really has. It's changed the feeling around them and
the trajectory.
Some of the social media videos that was coming out, all of the social media videos that was coming out of the Pelicans locker room the other night. That's not fake.
No,
that stuff's not happening in every winning locker room either in the NBA. I mean, that's a group that really is buying in. I mean, they got good vibes. They got great chemistry. You can see it from everybody, the coaching staff, all of the support staff that was walking in there. It's a great product right now.
No, there's no doubt. And let's talk about this series now. Look, Phoenix is not going to roll over.
Right.
Okay, they lost 18 games this year. Again, they were in the NBA Finals last year. They've got a first ballot Hall of Famer that is going to be willing them to win in Chris Paul. They're going to have to make some adjustments on the fly here. So are the Pelicans. 1-1, no Booker for games 3 and 4 at home. I thought they'd have a shot to win games 3 and 4 at home. Again, and maybe come in here 0-2. Now you've won. Now again, you've split. There's a chance you could go back to Phoenix 3-1. Look at an elimination game.
Yeah.
But again, obviously you got a whole serve here at home. Very, very difficult. They're a wounded tiger now. How do the Pels deal with this over the weekend?
I think that this. First off, I think tomorrow night is going to be one of the great sports nights and environments in New Orleans in the last 15, 20 years. It'll be Superdome-esque, Saints-esque, peak of power, New Orleans Saints type fandom on Friday night inside of the Blender. So I think it'll be a great atmosphere. I saw the spread was Phoenix already -1. You saw that game the other night. It tipped off at, I believe, 11. 10.5 is when it went off at. It's a hell of a jump for one player, even though Booker, you saw the way that he can control the game in the first half. I believe that the Suns are going to be really ready to play tomorrow night. I think that this is probably as fierce of a punch as you'll take from them tomorrow night. If this is a game where the Pelicans could kind of see the 1 seed for 4 quarters, this would be it.
They're going to be focused. There's no doubt.
No, they're going to be locked in. And that's Paul coming back to the city. He's telling them what he means to this building, what he means to this franchise, and them all following his lead.
They're a very good and deep team.
They are.
They are.
You can't lose. The Pelicans have played. They've made you drunk on watching them the last 8 games because it's just been mesmerizing, right? But when you look up and realize, hey, on the other sideline, this is a really deep, well-coached. Monty Williams deserves a ton of credit. That I believe Friday night is going to be as heavy of a punch as they're going to throw in this series. But like I said, Willie Green leaves me with the sense of they're going to be prepared, and they're going to have something for Phoenix that they're not prepared for.
And they're going to fight.
Yeah, Phoenix is going to adjust, and they'll make the adjustments, but they're going to see something tomorrow night that they haven't seen in games 1 and 2, and they're absolutely going to fight. Basketball is such a game of spurts and runs, where you look up and they're down 23 in game 1, and the next thing you blink your eye and they're down 6. I think it's going to look. I think this series is now going. You're talking 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, I think so too. Where a lot of people thought maybe 5 and 1.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm with you. Big weekend though.
Huge
big weekend for the Pels. If you can hold serve here, all the pressure is on Phoenix. Especially if you get Game 3, it's even more pressure on Phoenix for Game 4. The crowd's going to be behind them. But again, they have to be composed. And again, remember, this is going to be the first game back now in a playoff atmosphere in the Smoothie King Center with everything on the line.
And one of the storylines that I think gets lost here is because of the youthful energy of the Pelicans and how easy they are to cheer for. First time over the last 48 hours they've been in their own bed in like 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Would they play 5 games in 3 days in 3 cities? It's just or 3 games in 5 days in 3 cities. That's. Even though they're going Ritz-Carlton to Ritz-Carlton, it's still a hell of a travel, that you've got to deal with. And there's nothing like your own bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're going to be well rested and, a little feeling of, familiarity.
Right. And you saw the rest from Game 1 to Game 2.
Yeah. Okay.
We just have a day or so of rest, how they played. Now, I'm with you, no doubt about it. I don't want to ask for a prediction, but I mean, if you have one.
I think right now I still believe that Phoenix wins the series, but I think that New Orleans pushes this thing to the brink. I think that they have Phoenix on the ropes. They understand that, and they're going to try their best to knock them out. I just don't think that they have the firepower to do it in a 7-game playoff series. But this is a great stepping stone, learning lesson for the future, where you look down the line and you take that next step.
That's what you do. It'd be nice if, again, firepower. You bring in a guy, named Zion. That might give you a little firepower as well. All right. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Jordy Culotta. The Jordy Culotta Show is our guest. We come back. We're jumping into the Saints. Then we're jumping to the collegiate game. All that coming up here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Our underwriters are up next. And then, of course, we'll be back with more Inside New Orleans Sports. Stick around.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. With us today is Jordy Culotta, the Jordy Culotta Show. We shift gears to the New Orleans Saints. And how many times have we done Pelicans in the first A block and then come back in the B block with the Saints? It just doesn't happen on this program, but the Pels are on fire. Saints, all the talk is now with just about 7 days before the NFL draft. Again, what are the Saints going to do? Again, they've had Tyrann Mathieu and Jarvis Landry in for visits over the last 2 weeks. Both guys seem to me to be a perfect fit for this team. Jarvis Landry, a guy that could come in and can play opposite Michael Thomas if you need to. If Michael Thomas starts a little bit slow or is in a situation where he gets injured again, Landry could move right into Thomas's spot and play that particular wide receiver position. Also, when you look at Tyrann Mathieu, he's a guy that we've discussed on this program radio show with about, again, he was willing to take $10.3 million a year over 3 years and a $20 million signing bonus with Kansas City. That really lines up what the Saints have to spend for a safety. To me, would be a perfect free safety for this team, a leader. They went out and overpaid for both Roman Harper and Malcolm Jenkins to come in and lead. Here's another perfect leader for this young secondary if they decide to bring him in. There is some hesitation, maybe on the part of the Saints' part, not just because of maybe what they're asking for in terms of salary, but there are compensatory picks at risk here as well. Most people believe they will not sign another free agent until after the draft, because that way, again, they'll get the third-round compensatory pick for both Armstead and Williams, which is what they're trying to be able to make sure they hold on to, especially after, again, trading away their first and second-round pick next year, again, to move up into 16 and 19 this year in the NFL draft. So it'll be interesting to see, again, how those guys played out. Both guys are from New Orleans, obviously Landry from Lutcher, Tyrann Mathieu from New Orleans. Both guys LSU alumni, and I think both guys would be a perfect fit for this team on offense and defense.
Well, when you think about what the areas of need for the New Orleans Saints are, it's crazy to think about that two players at those needed positions are locals, and they're really legitimate, the top guys that could help them out. I mean, to think about Tyrann Mathieu in the locker room as a leader here, I think you brought it up before we went on the air. It's a great point. I mean, think about the people that they have paid to be in that position, whether it was Roman Harper or Malcolm Jenkins over the last decade to play that role. Who right now and better in that league is better in the league at that than Tyrann Mathieu? I mean, my favorite year that Mathieu has had in the league, and he came in and sat in with us, I believe, 3 weeks ago for an hour and answered all our questions, and we talked about the possibility of joining joining the New Orleans Saints. But my favorite year that Matthew has had up to this point in his decade in the league is the 1 year that he spent in Houston. I mean, you think about when he bet on himself that year with the Texans. They had established leaders in those locker room, in that locker room already, and Matthew came in there and didn't even make it out of training camp without getting the captain's C, voted on by his teammates. He was an all-pro that year. He made it to the Pro Bowl. That was the year he opened himself up into free agency and signed with Kansas City. But, I mean, the impact that he had on that franchise, you listen to Bill O'Brien speak about that, and really, Bill O'Brien said within like the first 2 days of practice, I was ready to hand him the keys to the locker room because he was that good of a leader. And for everything that he's gained since then, a couple of Super Bowls, all pros, another captain's, wearing the C on the side for Kansas City. I think, I think there was a little concern of bringing him back home. I mean, there's a lot of people around here that may have not liked to have seen him succeed.
But that was,
I think, we asked him that. We asked him that directly, and he said, "No worries, no worries, no worries for him, from his standpoint."
And he had mentioned it years ago, right?
Sure.
It was probably better that I don't play home.
Yeah.
But he's matured so much water under the bridge.
And I don't even know if it's about him.
Right.
I think it's about just kind of his relationship with some people in the city.
Right.
You know what I mean? That had to, he had to get over both sides. Both sides.
Sure.
But now when you think about it and where he is, where the Saints are, it makes great sense. And I think that you laid it out with Jarvis perfect. They need pass catchers. Right. I mean, Jarvis is he's a durable pass catcher. He can't pop you over the top
not like he used to.
Not like he could, but I mean, he's not going to drop it.
No.
And for where the Saints are, if you get Thomas back, and I know you haven't seen him in 2 years, so it's a little curious on what Thomas you're going to get. But I mean, I believe from a wide receiver standpoint, 2 years off, I can sell you that might be a good thing. I mean, he may come back where he looks like a a rookie or a second-year player. And if you get that Mike Thomas, whoever the number 2 is on this team is going to, I mean, he's going to be an all-pro.
There's no doubt.
I mean, so.
And you could get the guys that could take the top off the defense.
Sure.
In the draft.
Absolutely.
In the draft.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. But Jameis Winston needs weapons to be effective. He's not Drew Brees. We've talked about this over and over again. Brees was able to raise the level of wide receivers, pass catchers, that guys that came from small schools, undrafted, late round picks like a Marcus Colston. Winston is a guy that needs weapons around him to be effective, and we saw that last year with again the crew from Big Lots they put on the field last year. Okay, I mean there's no doubt about it. So I mean give him some weapons this year and allow him to be able to again maximize what he can do. Obviously, this is not going to get done before the draft, but I am interested. When Tyrann was on your show, talking about coming back home, talking about the Saints, he was open to this.
Absolutely, he absolutely was, and I think that there was discussion before that. He had not made the trip down to the facility at this point yet, but you could tell there was some back and forth between his side, his agent, and New Orleans. And look, this is a part I think of having a defensive-minded coach now.
Right.
You know what I mean? He recognizes a guy like Matthew, maybe like Sean Payton would recognize a wide receiver or a running back over the past couple of years, where you can see, hey, this is my guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'll get to coach this guy every day, and I know that if he ends up being the pure leader of the locker room, that's good on me too. You know what I mean? And so I believe that there's a lot of benefit to bringing Matthew in here, and I think that the teams have started to dwindle down, and I believe that New Orleans is definitely a candidate that's being taken seriously.
$19 million to spend. You can roll some of that money over next year. Remember, I keep telling everybody, it's 2 years from now when that new TV deal kicks in, with the digital platforms are going to be part of it, and again, the Saints will be flush with cash once again.
Yeah.
Okay. All that Robin Peter to pay Paul, that goes out the window with again the salary cap going up. But the question is now.
Yeah, but I never worry about that.
I don't either.
Like it's like like a decade ago, they used to have me stressed out. But it's like they've done this so many times and gotten past it and been competitive. Where it's like, Mickey, I trust him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like whatever you see, I'm in.
We trust.
Absolutely.
No, I agree.
Absolutely.
100%. All right. Draft coming up, 16 and 19. Some say they're going to move up for a quarterback. I don't think so. Even Peyton said yesterday or at the Pro-Am that and we know his mindset. I'm not going to draft a receiver in the first round. I think that's been part of the problem.
Yeah.
We've seen some really good receivers that come out of our own backyard that went in the first round and changed the complexion of a team because they were NFL ready. There are a few guys that are first rounders that again can come in immediately and help you. This is a deep draft in positions where the Saints need help. Offensive tackle, also wide receiver, running back is another one. Maybe you don't have the depth at safety, which is one of the reasons why I'm saying go out there and get a veteran like Tyrann Mathieu. But again, those are positions where they can go in immediately and get help. And maybe if there's a quarterback there that's in the second round or so, maybe you're taking a look at him. If a Matt Corral is falling, but the quarterback draft is next year.
Yeah.
So again, and you have quarterbacks, as Drew Brees said yesterday, you have Jameis Winston. You're in a situation where you have a solid backup in Andy Dalton. Why are you going out there and getting the quarterback when again you need so many other needs at other positions? Where do you think they go?
This is not the draft for me to spend a first-round pick on quarterback. I think that first off, from the Saints standpoint, you need too many other parts.
I agree.
You need too many other players and prospects, and from a quarterback standpoint, like you said, this ain't the year. This is not the year to go fishing for a quarterback or try to make something happen at that position. This is a very deep offensive line draft. This is a very deep wide receiver draft. Those are two areas that the Saints need, and they got 2 picks sandwiched in the middle of the first round. Right. Don't overthink it.
Right.
Don't overthink
right.
it. Either package that up and go get you a wide receiver. Right. We had a question come in on our mailbag segment the other day. Would you package the 2 first rounders for DK Metcalf?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, some are saying that right now about Deebo Samuel.
Deebo Samuel was another one that came up.
Right.
So I don't know if there's a wide receiver better than Samuel in this draft, so maybe you do it. But if you like an offensive lineman at that point in the draft and you can also get one of the top wide receivers, I say don't overthink it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Take the 2 areas that you need the most, take the 2 best players that are available at that spot, and go get them, man.
I'm with you. And look, if there's in their mind, on their board, there's a drop-off on the tackle position, and where you're not going to get that guy at 16, and you move up to go get your guy, I've got no issue with it. Okay? Now, I wouldn't give up 2 first-round picks, because then you're giving up 3 first-round picks for 1 player. But I would definitely look at, again, maybe one of the later picks, packaging that and try to move up a bit to get your guy. Maybe it's a cross from Mississippi State. I don't know if you're going to get the kid from Alabama, because I think he's going to go really, really early. But again, I have no issue with that. If it doesn't work out, you still got James Hurst. Here, and maybe you're grooming that player. But to me, it's all about filling holes now. And Dennis Allen said as much at the owners' meeting, that they're going to look at the draft again to be able to fill holes and then augment that with free agency, which is a different mindset that we saw with Sean Payton, where they filled the holes with free agency and they went best player available in the draft. We'll see how that kind of plays out. But they have the ammunition. They've got 2 picks obviously in the top 19. They've got 3 picks in the top 49 and 4 picks within the top 100. Those are game changers when you talk about drafts.
Yeah, you need Jeff Ireland to be on this year. And look, he's shown that he's on a lot more than he's off. And this year, I think, is a big year for him. Another spot where you really had a lot of belief in Sean Payton that he was going to make sure and have this day organized and that they were going to be viable. I think that a guy like Jeff Ireland, who's got so much experience and probably didn't get as much credit as he deserved with Payton being in that room, can maybe step up and be kind of the leader of the day here.
I'm hopeful that it is.
Yeah.
If you look at Mickey Loomis's track record when he was the guy who was in charge of the draft, we're talking about the Haslett era, hot and cold. Again, and when you look at this franchise since Jeff Ireland has come on, they've had more hits than misses when it comes to the draft. Just quickly, the Breakers beat the Stars 23-17 in their first game in Birmingham. You could see the drop-off in the level of play from NFL to even the spring leagues. For those of us that saw the original USFL, it's night and day in terms of the level of competition and player, but we'll see how it plays out. They play the Tampa Bay Bandits on Sunday. Right now, again, 1-0 for the Breakers. Did you get a chance to watch?
I watched a little bit of it. I'm with you. And now that you're splitting up the minor leagues, you got an XFL and a USFL, it's not going to be able to make it just because there's not that many players.
Right, I agree with you. Of course, the big weekend with, again, team play at the Zurich Classic in New Orleans. Again, some of the greatest players in the game are here, and this has been a godsend for the Zurich Classic in New Orleans, going to team play. A lot of people, myself included, again, being more of a traditionalist, was like, what are you doing? You're telling me you're not going going to be able to last on the tour anymore. You can't. But this has been an incredible hit for the city and for the tournament as well.
And for the game.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it's brought to the PGA a little bit more of a reputation of, oh, okay, maybe they can adapt. You know, I mean, they don't have to be so buttoned up and
rigid.
Exactly. So, no, I think it fits the vibe of the city.
I agree.
You know, I think that, you know, you look at the Phoenix Open, that's a great golf tournament, you know what I mean, where it's very loud and rowdy. I mean, I think that New Orleans has that feel where it's a little different, it's a little unique, and you should embrace that. And I credit the PGA Tour really for opening that up and really allow. I know the players love to do that. I had a chance to serve on the 4Kids Foundation board a couple of years ago, and one of the jobs that was left open, because they do a lot of the volunteer work for the Zurich, was driving the players back and forth from their hotels to the course and the course to the hotels. And you would have, you know, sometimes it would just be the player, sometimes it would be the player and his wife, sometimes it would be the player, his wife, and their kids. And you would hear the stories of traveling week to week as a PGA Tour member and how much people look forward and seeing this on the schedule if they were able to make it down here, just because of the vibe of the city, the opportunity to come down here. And now with like French Quarter Fest and, you know, I mean, even the Pelicans being alive here, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a couple of players tomorrow night, you know, courtside.
I don't think there's any doubt.
Or out
they've got the tickets. There's going to be a lot of players there. Plus, again, you mentioned before it was Jazz Fest weekend, draft. There were so many things going on in the city. Now it's French Quarter Fest weekend, NBA and Zurich, and it's just it's great for the city. The Zurich has done so much in changing golf as well. You know, again with the food and the music and everything else they've got on the course, and this just takes it to another level. And it's really made again a preferred tour stop now for not just international players, which they've always done well with, but now again local. I'm going to say local meaning again the United States players coming here as well. So big weekend for the Zurich. Big weekend up at LSU on Saturday with the spring game. I know you'll be there. Talk a little bit about what you're going to be looking for.
Well, I think first and foremost, wrapping up this first spring for Brian Kelly, you really can't help but see the organization that he's brought into the program in just a short time. Now, hearing the stories of things that was happening before spring and then getting the opportunity of seeing the things on the field with spring, I mean, you just move around out there with a lot of intention. Everybody's kind of moving with a purpose. And so I think the first and foremost thing that you've seen is that the organizational structure that he's brought really to the program and to the field. Now, on the field, I think you got a lot of good competition, spots like offensive line and defensive backfield and even quarterback, I think is going to be really the storyline that everybody runs with. I mean, it's a healthy 3-quarterback race on who's going to be the starter, and then the fourth guy, you know, is the #1 quarterback in last year's recruiting cycle, who is, you know, returning from a hand injury that's really throwing the ball around very good. I mean, you can tell that the head coach really likes him, has seen some things from him that they have to build on, and really is going to be a key part to the future. So, you know, I think that when LSU pulled out of the bowl game in Houston right after the first of the year, there was a lot of calls for concern on, man, how bad are they going to be in 2022? But, you know, Brian Kelly's done a tremendous job with his recruiting staff, Brian Poley and Frank Wilson, of really getting into the transfer portal. They just picked up another defensive back transfer in Seven Banks from Ohio State, a former 5-star recruit. Coming in, and, you know, I mean, they have given themselves a chance to be competitive in the league next year, where they'll put some pressure on a lot of the teams that they'll play. They may not win every game, and they're going to be in some games that they probably shouldn't, but they've given themselves a chance, at least from a personnel standpoint, to get out there and compete, you know, and I think that was a hell of a mountain to climb when they pulled out of Houston on January 4th.
There's no doubt. I think I read the other day 15 transfers so far. Is that what it is?
Probably 16 now with Banks.
2 more spots available. Where do you think they go?
I think that you look at offensive line, and look, they missed out on a big one in Tyler Steen from Vanderbilt, who ended up at Alabama, and that was one that they wanted, but they did a really good job of filling some holes in that transfer portal. Defensive back was an obvious one, and I think that they would probably take another DB. You know, I mean, if DB was available. But I think offensive line is definitely a position that you look at. They lost Corey Kiner, a running back, last week, but they'll get Noah Kane from Penn State in the offseason. But I think offensive line and defensive backfield still are probably the two spots where you look at and you say, look, you need the most severe help there. If there's anybody that can play, if there's anybody that comes out of spring, these drills that say they want to come in, you probably got to take a good hard look at them.
Now, Connor's from Cincinnati. He goes back and he's going to play for the Bearcats. But again, I mentioned that anybody that leaves now is looking at that depth chart saying, okay, I'm not going to play, or again, there's a better place for me. And what was it? Was it him looking at that depth chart saying, because look, he looks like he's going to be a pretty good back.
He's a good player. He really is. He's a combination he does a combination of a couple of things, and it's tough to take him off the field. You know, I mean, he really has bought into the pass protection part of it. He catches the ball well. He runs inside and outside. I think Cincinnati got a really good player, and I think this is, this is kind of a little bit of homesick. And, you look at Noah Cain coming in, you see John Emery, the spring he's having. You wonder if you're really going to be able to get on. Armani Goodwin's having a really good spring. Frank Wilson did a really good job, too, of making that an NFL room pretty quick. I think when you look at John Emery, you look at Noah Cain, and you look at some of the guys that they have behind them that could develop into some guys, into some big-time backs. I think that they've got a really good, healthy, competitive room there.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good, you'll see that. Is it on TV?
Yeah, it'll be on the SEC network.
It will be, because I was looking on
I believe it's 1 p.m. Saturday.
Good. I'll have to let Sean Vazan know that, because we were talking yesterday on the radio show. I couldn't find it on my on DirecTV, so I'm gonna have to go and check that again tonight. By the way, Tulane spring football. Their game was last Saturday. I'll get a lot of great transfers, ex-New Orleans high school players who have come back home and are really going to make a difference for the Wave this year. So looking forward to that as well. College baseball, LSU 24-12, 7-8 in the SEC. Tulane 24-13-1, 6-3 in the AAC. UNO 19-15, 6-6 in the Southland. Nichols is leading the Southland right now, 20-14, 7-5. SLU right there with them, 17-20 overall, but 7-5 within the Southland. Let's talk LSU. Up and down all season long. Is this an Omaha team? I got about a minute.
You know what? I don't know if they're an Omaha team, just because they're so streaky. They're so up and down. They've played some really good series. They went to Florida and Mississippi State and won. Then they went to Arkansas and were swept, and they couldn't take care of Auburn at home. They need to get back on track versus Missouri. They got a really scary lineup. I think any time you're in the opposing dugout, you can never really overlook them, because at any point they can start knocking the cover off the ball. I think it's gotten to a point in the season where they've just shown that they're not consistent enough to make that push towards the postseason. Their pitching's been up and down. Their defense has been really down. And their offense has kind of been streaky. So, it kind of is a formula of a team that, they'll scare you, but they're not going to, they don't have enough to make that run.
Do you think they'll get in the postseason, though?
I do. I do.
I think Tulane and LSU have a real good chance based on their numbers right now of making it. Now, the Southland is a one-bid league. So we'll see again how that plays out with the local schools there. But it looks like Tulane and LSU have a real chance of getting into a regional.
No, I think LSU is definitely going to get in a regional. I think right now they're kind of hovering over whether or not they can host one.
a regional,
so I think that, the brand, the offense, you can never forget at the end of the day, it's a television show. LSU's going to bring viewers to the television.
They're going to sell out the box.
They'll sell out. Wherever they go, too. Even if they don't host, you put them on the road, the fans are going to travel. So, I think they get in.
All right. Jordy Culotta Show. Tell us all about it one more time.
YouTube, Facebook, and all over social media. Easy to find us at Culotta Show is the easiest way to just Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, wherever you're at on social media, easiest way to find us.
Jordy, thanks as always.
Always.
And of course, let me just say a parting thought here. If you love sports and you like, again, being informed, some of the best guests in sports, I was going to ask him, you going to get Jarvis Landry soon? I'm just telling you, again, they're gravitating toward the Jordy Culotta Show. Give it a try. Again, a lot of folks on YouTube now, checking stuff out on social media. Give him a try. I promise you, just based off, again, the folks that heard him the first time around this show, that have tried his show, I've gotten so many emails that now they are avid watchers of Jordy's show each and every day. Give him a chance. Give him a shot.
Thank you.
Jordy Culotta Show each and every weekday from 7 to
9 a.m.
7 to 9 a.m. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, plenty of ways to be able to catch our program. Again, of course, there's so many rebroadcasts. They're up on the screen for you right now. I don't want to go to each every one of them like I do every week. But again, a lot of ways to be able to catch our program now. We're very, very blessed. Don't forget, catch me on the radio, 106.1 FM. And, of course, you can catch us 4 to 6 weekdays. Also, listen live at ericasher.com, our digital platforms, the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn Radio app. And, of course, our podcasts on the Anchor Podcast, but we're on all podcasting platforms. There's a QR code up on your screen. You click it, go right to my website, or again,